On the morning of the 27th of July, 1909, a large new ocean liner slipped past a slower cargo steamer off the wild coast of South Africa. The two ships traded names by signal lamp in the gray light, the way ships did. Then the bigger vessel, faster and brighter, pulled ahead and shrank toward the horizon. By 9:30, she was gone from view. That was the last time anyone is known to have seen the SS Waratah. Aboard her were 211 passengers and crew. Not one of them, and not a single piece of the ship, was ever found. The Waratah was built to be admired. Her keel was laid at the yard of Barclay, Curle and Company on the River Clyde near Glasgow, and she was launched in September 1908. At more than 9,300 gross tons and some 465 feet long, she was one of the largest ships ordered for her service. She belonged to the Blue Anchor Line, a British company that carried emigrants and cargo on the long run between London and Australia. She was named for the Waratah, a bright red flower of New South Wales. To the people who boarded her, she looked like the very picture of a safe modern liner. Inside, she was designed to reassure. There were first-class cabins with proper berths, a music room, a smoking room, and a glazed veranda where passengers could sit out of the wind. Below decks, she carried hundreds in steerage, mostly emigrants chasing a new life on the far side of the world. Her maiden voyage left London in November 1908 and reached Adelaide in December, carrying more than 700 passengers. She was a working ship of empire, built to move people and goods across half the planet. Her commander was a man with 30 years at sea. Her captain was Josiah Edward Ilbery, a senior master of the Blue Anchor Line. He had spent roughly 3 decades commanding ocean-going ships, including the Waratah's older sister, the Geelong. Men who sailed under him trusted him. When the Waratah set out on her second voyage, she gathered passengers in Australia, then turned west across the Indian Ocean toward South Africa and home. She called at Sydney, then steamed for the Cape, carrying cabin passengers, steerage emigrants, and a heavy load of cargo. By late July 1909, she was approaching the South African coast, and everything, on the surface, seemed entirely ordinary. On that second voyage, one passenger grew uneasy. Claude Sawyer was an experienced traveler, and something about the way the ship moved disturbed him. He felt she rolled too far and recovered too slowly, that she sat wrong in the water. He later said he had been troubled by vivid, dreamlike visions during the crossing, including the image of a strange figure holding a long sword and a bloodied cloth. Whatever the source of his dread, Sawyer made a decision that would set him apart from everyone else aboard. When the Waratah reached the South African port of Durban, he gathered his things and walked off the ship. From Durban, Sawyer sent a short cable to his wife in London. The message was blunt. He had booked through to Cape Town, he wrote, but he thought the Waratah was top-heavy, so he had landed at Durban. It was the kind of telegram that meant nothing at the time and everything afterward. The Waratah reached Durban on the 25th of July, 1909, took on coal and passengers, and prepared to continue down the coast to Cape Town. On the evening of the 26th, she cast off and steamed out into the dark with 211 people aboard. Claude Sawyer stood on solid ground and watched her go. In the early hours of the next morning, the Waratah came up on a slower vessel, the Clan Line cargo steamer Clan McIntyre. The two ships were near the mouth of the Bashi River, off a stretch of shore long known to sailors as a graveyard of wrecks. They signaled each other by lamp, exchanging names and destinations in the ordinary courtesy of the sea. The Waratah, being far the faster ship, drew steadily ahead. By about 9:30 that morning, she had passed out of sight over the horizon. The crew of the Clan McIntyre thought nothing of it. There was no reason to. Soon after, the weather turned. The coast off the Transkei is notorious for sudden violent seas, where a strong current runs against the wind and throws up enormous waves. Within a day, the conditions had built into what witnesses described as a cyclonic storm, with great swells rolling up that treacherous shore. The Waratah was due in Cape Town within a couple of days. She never arrived. At first, there was little alarm. Ships were sometimes delayed, wireless was primitive, and a powerful liner was expected to ride out heavy weather. But the days passed, and the silence from the Waratah did not break. When it became clear the Waratah was overdue, the response was enormous. The Royal Navy sent warships, including the cruisers Pandora, Forte, and Hermes, to sweep the coast. The owners and underwriters chartered a steamer, the Sabine, which searched many thousands of nautical miles over weeks of grim, methodical work. The following year, a committee in Melbourne sent out another vessel, the Wakefield, for a months-long expedition. Together they covered vast stretches of the Southern Ocean. They found floating wreckage, bodies, and rumors, but nothing that could be tied with certainty to the Waratah. The sea simply offered nothing back. The disappearance became headline news across Britain, Australia, and South Africa. Families waited for word that never came. In December 1910, the Board of Trade opened a formal inquiry in London to determine what had happened. The court heard from the ship's builders, who produced calculations arguing she was sound, even with coal stacked on her decks. Then it heard from passengers and dock workers who told a different story, of a ship that rolled heavily, listed in calm water, and could not be moved when empty without ballast. The expert testimony and the eyewitness testimony pointed in opposite directions. The inquiry could not resolve the contradiction. With no wreck, no survivors, and no agreed account of the ship's stability, the court declined to reach a firm conclusion about the cause of the loss. It did not formally blame the Blue Anchor Line, but it criticized the company's practices for judging the seaworthiness of its new ships. For the families, that was the cruelty of it. There was no verdict, no resting place, no certainty. The Waratah had taken 211 lives and every answer with her. Shortly afterward, the Blue Anchor Line itself was absorbed by a larger company, and its great red flowered liner became a name that meant only loss. Without a wreck, the theories multiplied, and they remain theories to this day. The most widely held idea fits the eyewitness accounts. A ship that was top-heavy or carelessly loaded could have been caught broadside by one of the giant waves the wild coast is famous for, rolled past the point of recovery, and capsized in minutes, taking everyone down before a single boat could be launched. That would explain why nothing surfaced. Other suggestions range from a sudden fire or explosion in her cargo to an unlucky combination of storm, current, and an abnormally steep rogue wave striking at exactly the wrong moment. For most of a century, men kept looking. The marine explorer Emlyn Brown spent years and many expeditions hunting the seabed off the Eastern Cape. In 1999, it was reported he had finally found her, but a later dive revealed the wreck was a different ship, a vessel sunk by a German submarine in the Second World War. In 2004, after decades of searching, Brown gave up, saying he had exhausted every option. And so the Waratah keeps her secret. A large modern liner full of people sailed over a calm horizon on a July morning in 1909 and simply ceased to exist. No wreck, no answer, only 211 names in the sea.